They're polite to old people, dogs, and kids. That's right, they're the nice guys on business. Running a business is hard. Being a business leader is even harder. The nice guys bring in top industry pros to help your business prosper in a tough world. Get real advice from real people to get you real results today. Now it's time for the Nice Guys on Business. Here's your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
So I can remember growing up, my Uncle Morris, who lived in West Hollywood, or as he would call it, Beverly Hills, he would say, Dougie, add real estate to your portfolio. Now, as a 7-year-old, I really didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but damn if he wasn't right. Now, we're going to talk real estate today. We're going to talk about it from a slightly different perspective. It's going to be from the seller's perspective, all the stuff that they're doing right, that they're doing wrong. And we're here to talk to an expert today. His name is Michael B. Bell. He's a 20-year veteran plus. He's a residential real estate broker who has successfully handled close to $500 million in sales. Or in Beverly Hills terms, that's one sale. So no, I'm just joking. He's obviously sold many, many, many properties or helped that broker that. He's also the author of Seller Mistakes, What You Were Never Told About Selling Your Home and Why It Should Matter to You, a Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and Amazon bestseller, and a Barnes & Noble bestseller as well. Michael, I'm excited to talk to you. Welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it.
Man, so you take a niche of real estate and you tighten it up even more, and you specifically are talking with this book about the mistakes that sellers make. So obviously there's a lot of mistakes in there, or did I misstep any of that information so far?
No, you're absolutely right. I've been selling for a little over 20 years, and there were things in this industry I didn't really think were client-centric. It seemed like a lot of the customs and the things that we're taught to do and told to tell people were really almost more beneficial to the real estate agent. So I started studying, and I started with what's called a white paper. It's kind of like a research paper, and started pulling a lot of data, and then bumped into a gentleman who is a publisher, and he said, there's a book in there. And it took me 5 years. It was excruciating. I don't recommend anybody write a book. Rewrote it millions of times. And I like to tell people I'm a first-time author, last-time author, but a full-time realtor.
Yeah, I totally get that. I wrote a book in 2015 called Nice Guys Finish First. And why the hell anybody would want to put out a second one, I have no idea. I remember it was 10 weeks of agonizing pain, and it sounds like it took you 5 years to do what I did in 10 weeks. And I probably would have preferred spreading it out over a period of several years to do it. How timid are you? Can we throw some real estate agents under the bus? Not specific names, but can we throw some of those that kind of don't have the best interest of their sellers at heart? Or do you want to take a more lighthearted approach and just share the things that you think would help the industry?
I'm fine with doing that. It's interesting that you should say that. On Amazon, my book is for sale on Amazon, and I have all 5-star reviews except for one is a 3-star, and it's from a realtor. She didn't like the fact that I was bashing the way she builds her business, which was using home sellers to benefit herself, to use them and their home to generate leads. And she just kind of felt that was uncouth for a real estate agent to really expose all of that.
All right. Well, okay, let's start with that, because that's a really interesting point. You know, you go to any homes magazine or anything like that, and you see all of these amazing homes on the back cover, front cover, wherever it is. You see these 2-page spreads. A lot of those homes are the showcase homes. And when somebody calls to find out about the home, you find out, hey, that house was already sold, but we have some others in our inventory. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about, or is there something else that you mean?
That is actually one of the chapters. We talk about how advertising, print ads and mailers actually don't work. You have, according to the National Association of Realtors, you have less than a 1% chance of selling your home because of a print ad. People really aren't waiting for the newspaper boy or the mailman to show up to do their home search. That's pretty obvious. But realtors will oftentimes approach a seller and say, hey, I'm going to advertise your property in all these great magazines. And that may sound really impressive, and it's very expensive, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't benefit the seller. And that's all proven with National Association of Realtor stats. And it's common sense too.
All right. So what sells a home? Multiple list, word of mouth. Tell me what sells a house then.
Uh, Primarily, the process of selling a home is different than it was years ago. In the old days, maybe you did an open house and it was through the network of realtors. Everything's changed with the internet. So really, you have over a 90% chance of selling your house because of something on the internet. Your first showing, I like to tell people, is actually on the internet. Your second showing is the validation showing when somebody shows up to the house. You don't want to screw that up. So how do you not screw that up? You want to make sure you have great photos. You don't want to have too many photos. You want to have enough. You want to have a floor plan. The photos should be, just to back up, the photos should be professional. You should have a great description, and it also should be on the regular multiple listing service. That really is the main avenue. Now, all of these tips I'm going to be talking about, they're not totally exclusive. They're not. Sometimes things are different. I mean, there's, if you have a $200 million home or a special type of home, maybe you don't want to do the multiple listing platform. Maybe you want to do something different. But we're talking about very generic, standard real estate sales in this topic here. What else do? You need to have it priced correctly. There's a chapter about it. The chapter is called "It's a Beauty Contest and a Price War." And if you're not priced correctly, you'll just sit. I like to ask my clients, do you want to sit or do you want to sell? You know, your best buyers come at the very beginning of a listing, right when you put it on the market. Yeah. You have really one chance for a really great first impression, a big splash. And you need to have all the information there because your consumer is going to judge that property very quickly. Most buyers are looking for a reason almost not to see that house because there's just so much data that's out there. So you want to give them what they're looking for. A good description, obviously a great price, easy accessibility, photos. And now people are very visual. There's a Wall Street Journal study called 20 Seconds of Love, and it came out about 10 years ago. And they wanted to research how people, home buyers, process data when they're looking at a multiple listing service. When they're looking at a listing on the multiple listing service. What they found was kind of shocking. Most people spend almost all of their time on the photos. And then the number two thing that buyers want is a floor plan.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, our experience. We bought a home about a year ago, and as a buyer, we spent all of our time, I didn't even, not that I didn't look at multiple lists, but I really went to, for me, I went to Zillow, I went to Redfin, I went to, all the online sites, and I just subscribed to everything. And every house that fit the filter that we put on, I'm looking at the photos. And the next thing I was looking at is, like you said, looking at the floor plan, looking at the neighborhood, seeing what some of the comps in the neighborhood look like. Is it next to a train track? Is it next to a mobile home park? Is it, just the things that for me were important?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting also about this article, and I've seen this in practice too, they say 60% of the consumers read just the first two sentences of the listing and only 40% read the entire description. People have ADD when they're searching for real estate. You need to capture them. You need to capture your audience quickly. And you do that with great photos and a very fair and honest portrayal of the home, because people can see through. If you have on your listing, if it's full of fluff, or if you've altered the photos. I mean, we've all seen those crazy photos where it looks like there's a fisheye lens, or maybe they've pulled the hues out and it looks like, the photos look radioactive in a way.
So let's stack the odds so that the odds are in favor of someone that's looking to sell their home. What's the single most biggest mistake that people tend to make, or at least in your opinion, what's one of the single biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to putting their home?
Actually, the biggest mistake people make is that they give their listing away. And the first chapter, it says that I don't think that people should be giving their listing away. They should make their agent earn it. Now, this is some crazy statistics. The National Association of Realtors says 75% of all home sellers interview only one agent, and 10% interview at least three. Now, what's the really crazy statistic is 75% of all home sellers don't use the same agent again.
Okay, can we cover those again? Because I think that those are really important for people to hear. And don't worry about that. I can't even hear whatever's going on in the background there. Yeah. So don't worry about that at all. I don't know if you have a lawn care guy working on your house, but I could hear the slightest tinge of something going on in the background. So no big deal.
It's gardener day.
Welcome to Los Angeles County.
They're trying to ban leaf blowers,
No worries, man. And whenever there's a leaf blower going on in my neighborhood, all my girlfriend says is, all they're doing is blowing it from one yard to the next. There's nothing good that's coming out of a leaf blower. Anyway, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. So yes, 75% of all home sellers, according to the National Association of Realtors survey, which includes their survey they put out, gets sent to 160,000 recent home buyers and recent home sellers.
Okay.
And these sellers are saying that 75% of the time they only interviewed one agent, which usually means they just gave it to a friend or a family member or the first person that knocked on their door. But 75% of those people never use that same agent again.
Which means they probably didn't have a positive experience with them.
Yes. So really the biggest mistake people usually make is they don't interview at least 3 top local realtors. And chances are you're going to have a much better experience if you hire, or at least you interview 3 of the top agents in your area.
Can I give you some pushback on that for a second? And you're the expert. I'm just going to share with you what I have always heard as an uneducated seller from a guy that sold many houses in my life. And that is, oftentimes when you deal with the biggest agents, the biggest listing agents in town, the ones that are going to sell your home, you are dealing with a team that sometimes is much larger than just that person. And you never get a chance to really talk to that person other than just that listing appointment. They're like the rock star that comes in to get the listing, and then you're dealing with their teammates. Now, again, I would love you to give me some reason why that doesn't matter, or that's not the case, or tell me a little bit about what your feelings are there.
That's a great question. There's actually a chapter about hiring people that are on teams.
All right, cool. That's good.
I'm a big proponent of hiring somebody who maybe has a few assistants, and that's the main tip in the book. The problem with teams is that 49% of all team members leave within a year. So you have a rotating folks that are going in there. It's almost like, selling a house is almost like a football game. It's hard to have 3 quarterbacks and 5 people running the ball. It's going to be a mess, but you'll get there, right? But having 1 quarterback and 1 runner is going to usually make it a lot smoother and a lot easier.
Yeah.
Teams are the new thing in real estate. In the last 5 or 6 years, the benefit of a team is that I get to take vacations when I want to. I can kick back and I can push it off on somebody else. As an agent, there is an appeal to that because it really is just one big factory for the most part. But most people, they don't really care to be passed around. So that's something to think about when you're talking to agents is, are you going to get passed around or not?
Well, and again, I respect your answer, and I appreciate the fact that, hey, look, all this work is going to be on you if you're a solo agent. From a seller's perspective, look, that's not my problem. I'm just going to approach this like I don't want to feel like I'm a number. I can think about some of the large real estate teams back in my hometown when I had a home that I was selling back there, and I felt like I was a number for that large team. However, I've dealt with some agents out here when we just bought this home about a year ago. And although he was the leader of the team, I felt like it was a really cohesive team. Small town, really, he really nurtured his team. He loved his team. And it showed in the work that was done. And I appreciate you saying, hey, look, that's a 49% chance that it's going to be a rotating, person coming through that office. You're interviewing, I would be assuming you're interviewing not only for their professionalism, but for their communication skills and their ability to make sure that they're coordinating their team, not just, hey, I got a big team, hire me. Sometimes that's the kiss of death.
Guess what the number 1 complaint people have for realtors, according to NAR?
All right, I'm going to tell you what the number 1 complaint is from any company that's out there that I've ever dealt with a team, and it's lack of communication. That would be me. But what is it?
Bingo.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? It does not matter what fucking industry that you're in. Sorry, I don't mean to drop that bomb on you, but it doesn't matter what industry that you're in. Isn't communication like the key thing for all? I mean, I've built a company based upon one resource, and that is customer service. Customer service is not a department, it's a philosophy. And if you don't do it properly, your customers are going to take their dollars, their gold, and they're going to go somewhere else.
And when you're a team member, it's easy to hide behind the team members. It's easy to hide behind a computer screen. It's easy to be able to say, well, that's somebody else's job.
Yeah, and that's a sad example of a team run poorly, and that comes straight from management. You don't want anybody to be able to or want to. You don't want them to want to hide because all they're doing is throwing their team member under the bus, and that's right. and that's not good. All right, talk to me more about the mistakes that sellers make when it comes to putting their house together. Here, I was thinking we're just going to talk about things like they're not staging it properly, or they're not taking enough photos, but you're talking people and personalities and agents. I love that.
Well, let's talk about something that's really big. Is about open houses. There is this strong belief across agents and the consumer that you've got to do an open house to sell your house. What's interesting is the National Association of Realtors doesn't ask that one simple question: did your house sell because of an open house? They do ask a question. The only question that they ask about open houses is that did you find the house because of an open house sign, a for sale sign, a billboard, or other signage? And that includes new home construction too, because new home construction is pretty much, they're always open. But the national statistic for that is 8%. But if you really start digging into this, it's probably closer to 1% to 2%. Now, why do people do open houses? Well, we all know as real estate agents that people that are thinking about selling their home go to open houses. So it's an opportunity for me to use somebody's front room to market myself.
It's another selling opportunity. And I know when we have a lot of agents in our audience, I know we're going to get some pushback from them, but I agree with you completely. An open house is not selling your house. An open house is an opportunity for that agent to further enhance their client list by getting more listings and sales as a result. Same thing with the advertising. But it's the first thing that a freaking customer says is, where are you going to advertise my house and when's my first open house? Because they don't fucking know the difference. And I hate that about the sellers of the houses. It's not what's going to sell your house. Why do they get there? Why do they go there? Who started this myth?
Well, it's just one of those old-fashioned customs that we've had for years, and it's hard to let go. I'll tell you, during the pandemic, that we were all shut down nationally. We were shut down. We couldn't do open houses,
right? And
they opened that all up about 3 or 4 months ago, and it's booming again. It is too bad. But I want to get into this open house thing. I want to tell you something that's pretty shocking. According to the National Association of Realtors, they survey realtors. According to the 2021 statistics, they say that 49% of realtors say they show up to their open house, to work their open house on a Saturday or Sunday. 49% of them are armed. They're either armed with pepper spray, a gun, a knife, or a taser.
Of course.
In that order.
Of course, it's a horrible world out there, Michael. People are going to get knocked on the head and killed if they have their houses open. Why are we doing open houses, people?
20 years ago, when I got into the business, we had what's called Realtor Safety Day, and it morphed into Realtor Safety Week. And then for the last 15 years, we have Realtor Safety Month, and it's the entire month of September. We get barraged with emails, and we're told constantly, even from our managers, that if you're going to do an open house, bring a buddy with you. If you're going to do an open house, stand close to the front door so you can get out.
My mom started selling real estate in 1977. You know what she was armed with? Cookies and lollipops.
There you go.
Nobody needed a weapon back then. You need a fucking weapon now. You're going to have a house for sale.
Well, get this. There's a lot of problems with open houses that the agents won't tell consumers. For example, in the listing contract, it says that we're not liable for whatever happens at an open house. That's on your insurance,
right?
A seller's insurance. The other thing is the number one thing that gets stolen out of open houses is prescription medication. And guess what?
Wow.
People go into the bathroom. They don't ask to use your bathroom. They go in there and they grab stuff. And you have no idea who's in your house. We have no way searching these people or, scanning them or anything like that. So I tell sellers.
I agree with you. I didn't even think
wanna do
about
open
that.
house.
I don't even think about that. But yes, I agree with you. That could be potentially really hazardous for the stuff that's going on.
I tell my clients, if you want to do an open house, no problem. Get rid of everything you don't want, put it in the trunk of your car and drive away. And so I've been doing this for 25 years. I've done 7 open houses. 5 of them were in my immediate neighborhood, like right across the street from me. I just didn't want my neighbors to think I was totally lazy. So I did open houses in my own neighborhood, but they were for the most part useless. So I really don't do open houses. You don't need to.
All right, let's talk about the proper things. What's a good marketing skill that an agent or that a homeowner should have as they want to approach selling their house then?
Well, there's a number of tips. One of the tips I want to hit on, which might be very sensitive to a lot of people, and it's your agent's ability to negotiate their commission. It is oftentimes that sellers will hire somebody based upon the low commission.
It would seem to be counterproductive to me. It would seem like the higher commission would actually be better. You get more people in there because they're splitting the commission with the selling agent, aren't they?
Well, there's that. And also, and in my book, I'm a big proponent of negotiating with your agent. And I'll tell you why. The way your agent negotiates their commission, the way your agent negotiates their paycheck is probably exactly how they're going to negotiate the sale of your home. And if you can out-negotiate what's supposed to be a professional negotiator,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be for a world of hurt. And I'll tell you, I love representing buyers because a lot of time I don't represent too many buyers. I'm mostly sellers, but I'll tell you, most of the time when I call a listing agent to find out how low that seller will go, half of them will tell you. They're horrible negotiators.
Yeah, that's not a good negotiating tactic. Is telling your potential buyer how low their seller will go on it, especially if they're trying to get the house sold.
Yeah, but like I said, you shouldn't be able to out-negotiate a professional negotiator. You should be going to somebody else.
Understood. Okay, I'm with you on that one. All right, what else should we be talking about when it comes to selling a home?
Well, one of the chapters is talking about how you may not want to hire a friend or a family member, and this happens all the time. A son or a cousin or a really good friend gets hired. When you sell a piece of real estate, it really is a business transaction. And why not treat it that way? In a business transaction, you have the ability to yell at somebody and fire them and move on. But you usually don't hang out during Christmas and you don't give each other gifts. Okay?
Yeah, I do like bitching rights. I feel like there is a certain number of transactions that are going to happen in my life that it does not mean cause for a cousin or a brother or a sister. And if they get ticked off about that, it's kind of like lending relative money. It just is not a good idea. Oh, I was going to give you back the commission anyway. Well, why do you want me as a pain in the ass to you if you're trying to sell my house? You're just going to give me the commission back anyway. Let's not do it.
I mean, if you think about it, a great way to destroy a friendship is to go into business with somebody.
Yeah.
It's said over and over again. However, people do this all the time. And you wind up seeing a lot of relationships getting hurt from it. I've been doing this for 25 years. I can't tell you the dozens of times where a seller says, we had initially hired our friend and we don't have a relationship with them because this or that happened. And, frankly, when you hire a friend or a family member, you're really taking the nuclear option off the table. And it's nice to have that nuclear option to be able to yell at them, to fire them, and to not want to work with them again.
All right. So as Michael is sharing that, and if you're a real estate agent that deals primarily with family and friends, just know this: you have the opposing view, and you are welcome to apply to be a guest on the Nice Guys on Business podcast and share your opposing view. I got to tell you, I agree with Michael. I really do. I think that, and not just because he's sitting in the guest seat. I told him I'm happy to for him to give me pushback, and I would be happy to give him pushback. But everything he's saying makes sense. So look, if you're going to deal with a family member, just know that there is a potential that it's going to be a relationship gone sour. And if you're the kind of person that is okay with that, then throw caution to the wind and let that be the case with home sellers and you as the agent. But I would prefer to preserve the friendship and the relationship over the money, because the money will be spent, but the relationship could last forever. There you go. That was my Hallmark card.
I have a story in the book about how I sold my mom's home. She had a 1-bedroom, 1-bath home, and it had a loft and it had like a weird guest house, and they really wanted me to call it a 3-bedroom. It was an excruciating process. It happened 15 years ago. It took me 8 months to sell, and we wound up selling it, of course. But, guess what the topic was during Christmas? Guess what the topic was during Easter breakfast? It's like, I don't want to talk about real estate with my friends and family members. I just want to have a normal life.
Understood. Tell me about the book. Why did you write the book? You went through the pains to put it together. Why didn't you just stick to doing what you do best, which is selling homes? Why do you have to all of a sudden write a book and all of a sudden, after 5 years of your own internal struggle, put the book together, which I'm glad you did, which I'm glad you've put out there. But do you really need to have the pain in the rear end for putting the book together?
Well, I'll tell you what happened is I met my publisher. His guy's name is Rob Kosberg, and I really felt like we kind of challenged each other, but he challenged me to really see this through. I went online to find a book that was written like this. There really wasn't. There were a lot of braggadocious books out there. There were a lot of books about staging and curb appeal. Heck, we all know about staging and curb appeal. But to really, I think for me, it was really to pull the curtain aside and see what's really going on. And the book references a lot of statistics. I must have probably 200 different statistics in there from various sources, but mostly through the National Association of Realtors. I just needed to finish this thing. I mean, everything I've started, I finished. That really is it, and it was excruciating.
Yeah, not to turn this into a commercial for bestseller publishing, but I agree with you. Rob is a great guy. He understands the trials and tribulations that people go through just in creating their own their own wealth of information and content, and then to take all of that and put a book together. He's put together a great program with bestseller. I'm glad you leaned into him a little bit. Now, were you guys friends before you wrote the book?
No, not really. I will tell you a funny story about this, though, but he basically said, I can get you in the top 100 on Amazon. This book went to number 3 on the Wall Street Journal.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sold over 35,000 copies. It's resonated really well, and it's been fantastic. I get a lot of phone calls. I never thought it'd be this successful, but I think there's a need for this kind of information out there. Well,
then my follow-up question to that would be, why the hell don't you have a podcast? It's time. Now time to start a show, man. All right. Anyway, moving on. So
if Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations.
I completely understand. I get it. Somehow I see you smarter than those limitations, though. Tell everybody, if they want to get a hold of your book, what's the best way to do it? I know you have it on Amazon and some other places as well, but what would be the best approach for them to take if they want to get a copy of your book?
If they'd like to get a copy of it, there's a digital version available on Amazon.com. You can just type in seller mistakes. For $5, you can get a digital download for your Kindle, $15 for soft cover, $20 for a hard cover. If you'd like a PDF of it, you can go to my website, michaelbbell.com. There is a form that you can fill out. All I need is your name and your email address. I don't need your address or anything like that. Answer a few little questions. I'm not going to bug you at all, and I'll email you a PDF immediately.
All right, cool. And Michael, any final words of wisdom to those in our community that are thinking about selling and they've made all the mistakes? Because I made them all too, and I kind of understood the rules before I even got started. What would you tell them?
I'll tell you, grab the book and read the last 5 pages. It has a synopsis. I know that a lot of people don't want to read a whole book that's 150 pages long. Read the synopsis. Give me a call. If I can walk you through some stuff, I'd be happy to help out. Anybody, anywhere around the nation, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Wow, that is a generous offer for a guy that sells real estate in Los Angeles. I'm assuming you're only licensed in Los Angeles in the LA area, but you'll give advice anywhere all over the world.
Sales is pretty much the same, but I'm licensed in California, so I can help. I can't sell your property now. If you'd like to find somebody who's just like me that believes in these principles, I'm happy to find you somebody. I'll tell you, there are a lot of them out there. They're hard to find. You have to ask the right questions, and I'd be happy to help you with that.
Michael, I'm thinking certification. You might want to come up with a certification program. We had a guy on our show his name is Mike Michalowicz, and he wrote a book called Profit First. And he's got certified financial planners all over the country that do what he does based upon his strategies. You thinking about doing that?
Fantastic book. I read that 5 years ago. What a great book. I didn't know you had him on the show. I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah, Mike is a good guy. I made fun of him, so I made fun of him, but I didn't make as much fun of you as I made fun of him when he came on the beginning of the show because I couldn't pronounce his name. Of course, it's spelled. He's like, oh fuck it, whatever. But certification could be a good thing for you.
Thank you for the advice. I'm going to look into that. I appreciate that.
Here, Mike has come on the show, and I've given him. Michael's come on the show, and I've given him all sorts of information about starting a podcast and certification. Hopefully, somebody has bought a book of his, or he's never coming back to the show again.
Like I said, I'm a full-time realtor, part-time author, last-time author.
I understand. As an entrepreneur, what's the expression? I'm never short of ideas. I'm only short of time to implement the ideas. So thanks for sharing, and thanks for your wisdom on the show today.
I love it, Doug. I love your show. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Michael B. Bell for being on the show today. All of his information, including access to his book on the website, on Amazon, all sorts of places. And maybe even his phone number, if we can get you on his list, maybe there is a call that's involved. Thanks for being here. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.